Welcome to the Winning Family Podcast with Rodney and Michelle Gage. I am Dr. Linda Travelute, your host for the Winning Family Podcast, and we're excited to have Rodney and Michelle Gage with us once again. Well, it is your podcast, but we've got the most incredible marriage mentors in the world with us, sitting right beside me. How honored am I? Welcome, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Linda.
you.
We're
excited.
thankful for you.
Yes.
It's going to
You
be
do such a great job.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're going to talk about a topic that is going to be super helpful. It's called helping your kids navigate life's GPS. But before I tell you more about this topic, guys, should we tell them about the resource that you've made available that they can
Let's
download?
Yeah.
So if you are wanting an opportunity to really have some great conversations with your spouse, your mate, your significant other, you're going to want to download the 6 questions to shift your marriage. And I love this idea that they could take this on a date night and it could be a great conversation starter.
Yes.
So we'll give you info on how to download that at the end of the episode. But as we dive in here, I love the idea that every one of us has a God-given GPS, right? You call it our gifts, our talents, our passions. But tell us more about that. How's that going to help our kids?
Well, I think we all, whether we realize it or not, God has just given each of us, I think, our own internal sense of direction. But I think it's very difficult sometimes to identify how to tap into that. And especially, not only as adults, but obviously young people who are just, working through so much in their life and so much in their world and trying to figure so much of what it is they're supposed to be, who they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to do in life. But most importantly, I think we have to understand that God has already given us a compass. He's already given us in our today's world, we call it a global positioning system, that helps us get from point A to point B. But internally, God has given us the ability to really learn His ways and His will. And I think it's a matter of how do we tap into that. So that's what we're going to talk about today because, I think not only is this going to be beneficial even as adults, as individuals who are listening, but if you are a parent, have kids that are maybe in those transitional years, especially when really, I think from as kids start getting into their from 8, 9, 10 years of age, get into those preteen years and then their teenage years, then obviously as they begin to go through that transition into adulthood, they're all trying to find their way. And how can we as parents come alongside and not try to dictate to them what they should do and how they should do it, but guide them along life's path so that they can find out for themselves what it is that really helps them kind of have that aha moment of like, this is what I'm destined to do.
I love the scripture that Ephesians 2:10 that says we are His masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do great things that He planned for us even before we were born. So what you're saying is so true that we are His masterpiece. He has a great plan for our lives, and He's given us different gifts and talents and abilities. And then add that to our passions. And then the S is the struggles that we go through in life is helping develop that GPS in us that is guiding us to what we might do as a career or what difference we can make with our lives. It's really great to help our children know. And I think even as our children were babies, some of the things that they did, like Becca would hum in her crib as a baby.
Wow.
So she was like already displaying a gift with music as a baby. So even I'm super passionate about helping even the young ones, just really start to hone in on what are their true gifts and talents that are God-given. That it can only be a God-given thing, and then helping them develop that.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the whole GPS, so kind of just real quick, I'm throwing in some extra words in here. So Michelle always says, keep it short and simple, but sometimes I like to elaborate. So I'm going to extend GPS a little bit, okay? If we can add a few extra words in there. So GPS, again, is an opportunity for us. It's almost like a framework that we can use to build off of especially as parents. But for example, starting with the gifts that God gives us. So the G, can obviously refer to the giftings that God gives us. As now for those who may be listening or watching who are believers like we are, we have to also understand that God specifically gives us what is referred to as spiritual gifting. So there are gifts that God imparts to us.
Yes.
The moment we become followers of Christ, the Holy Spirit imparts to us, certain gifts. And so there are, natural abilities that is referred to in the Bible as spiritual gifts. And it's important that we understand that later in life, because those really do help kind of give a sense of direction, a sense of purpose and meaning behind those strengths that God gives us. But with that, I love the verse in Proverbs 22, verse 6 that says, train up a child in the way he or she should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. And there's a lot of different variations. Michelle, you have a translation that you love to share as well. I know in
there's a translation that says their natural bent, which I know you have some thoughts on that. And then I was just looking at another translation, believe it's the Amplified, that says the way he should go, leading him to seek God's wisdom and will for his abilities and talents, which is just so cool, in the Amplified version.
Yes. And that bent is really designed, if you will, to help us understand that there is a God-given bent. It's kind of like bending an arrow that's going to go in a certain direction. And so we're going to naturally gravitate or bend in certain directions based on ways that we are really gifted in terms of the area of strengths, those natural abilities and talents. It's kind of like, in a spiritual term, it's our divine design, if you will. It's something that God just gives to each of us. And we all have different gifts and abilities. And it's not that one is more important than the other or better than the other. So you can't compare either or fall into that trap of comparing one child over the other or comparing one person over the other, because God needs us all. He designed us all for a unique purpose. So our identity and really our purpose work hand in hand. So there are gifts that's very, very important that we need to help our children understand. But secondly, there are goals. And I think when we are thinking about our future, when we're thinking about, next steps in life and our long-term dreams and aspirations and things that ultimately, we want to accomplish in life, well, we can all have, good intentions, but at some point we have to have goals that are very, very specific and measurable, obtainable. And, studies have even been shown that those who actually take the time and write out and write down their goals are far more likely to actually achieve them than those who just talk about them.
Right.
And so we have to be very thoughtful and intentional when it comes to talking about things, when it comes to what we're good at, what we're best at. And I like to say it this way. Here's how you'll know. Number one, it will come easy to you. So, you were talking about Rebecca, our oldest daughter, singing comes natural to her. It's just something she loves to do, which leads me to another thing. And I think when you understand something that you're good at and it comes easy to you, it's also going to touch people. You're going to have a way of affecting people and impacting ways that, a lot of times you never thought, like, wow, I didn't know people were inspired, people were impacted in such a positive way. And I think another thing, the third thing would be that it's very fulfilling to you.
Yes.
In other words, it fills your tank.
Yes.
It brings great joy and fulfillment to your life. And so when all three of those things are kind of working together, then you know that, I think I'm on to something here. I think I'm starting to kind of find my niche. I kind of found my lane in terms of areas that seem to be working well for me.
Let's break that down for our kids, because I think, like a mom and a dad that are listening right now, maybe they have younger kids, maybe elementary school kids, middle school or high school, how that has looked in our lives and how we've seen that played out with other people is just really being observant. as a parent, and just watching, catching them doing the things that they're, that come easy to them, or, that maybe it touches someone's life, as they're getting older. But as it was with Becca, we could use her as an illustration for a second. She did. I mean, as a baby, I know it sounds crazy, it's like my grandmother said that my dad was potty trained before he was 6 months old, so
Yeah, right.
I don't know that was quite true, but I promise you, I'm telling you the truth, that she would hum when she was just born, just a baby. And, it's almost just as the scripture says, but that out of the mouth of babes comes praise. And so it was interesting that we saw that early on, and then we kind of kept not pushing, but helping her in her bent, because she was very shy as well. So when it came to getting up on a stage or a platform as she got a little bit older, she did not want to do that. I mean, she did not. And so we kind of had to help her see that you are gifted in this. Right. This is your natural gifting, and you're going to have to overcome your fear and press into your gifting, because God wants to use you to touch people's lives. So helping our children keep moving towards that. She had to say no. I think we've talked about that on other episodes. She had to say no to other things. As she got older and got into high school, she had to say no to cheerleading, because that was taking too much of her time. But we were continuing to help guide her to her gift, where now she is a worship leader. This is her full-time occupation, where she's leading thousands of people, to the Lord. Now, if we hadn't have helped her go towards her natural bent, getting over her fear, it was a little bit of a struggle for us to help her get over that, but we almost kind of had to make her do it some, or offer rewards on the back end of it. But it was just training her towards her natural bent.
Yeah. And I liken it to the 3 A's. So you have academics, athletics, and you have the arts. And when you think about those 3 arenas, usually that's where a lot of kids are kind of falling into one of those 3. And sometimes you may have a overachiever who's amazing at all 3 of those areas.
Right.
But that it is important that we allow our children to experiment with things,
right?
Not overwhelm them with so much, but allow them to experiment with things to see what it is that they gravitate to, what seems to come natural to them. And I think with that said, that we also try not to impose what we want them to be or do, because I think that's one of the biggest traps that, sometimes parents fall into is like, well, if I grew up playing baseball and I was successful at baseball and my dad was a big baseball, fan and fanatic, okay, well then I can't necessarily expect my son to be just as good or just as passionate about baseball maybe as I was, or maybe my dad was. So, if they have a whole different bent and a different desire, and well, then we need to give them that freedom rather than trying to force a square peg to fit in a round hole, so to speak, to do something that maybe they're not wired to do.
That's good.
And so I think we just have to be aware of that. And, obviously we've seen that played out in a lot of unhealthy ways.
That would be an example of our daughter, Ashlyn, I think, because Becca, I am a musician, singer. So, definitely I could have, pushed her that way because of what, I am gifted at. I don't think that's what happened. I think that is what is a God-given gift, that we saw in her. But Ashlyn, she was very talented in athletics. She was ambidextrous. I don't even know how to say that, Dr. Linda. Thank you. Yeah. She was just amazing with the ball and all of that. But she kind of started going into this passion in high school of the medical field. Well, neither one of us have any talent in that field. And, we exposed her to what my sister was doing and to different people that were gifted in that area, and I think that's another thing, is to expose our children to, especially if it's not a career path that we're on, that we expose them to the right people, that they can see what could be for their life.
Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of parents being aware as they're, exposing their children to different opportunities,
Right.
seeing what they seem to gravitate to, how they respond, do they succeed, are they finding joy, fulfillment in what they're doing, and if so, it's kind of like, okay, well, let's water that. Let's put more fertilizer on that one. Let's
Yes,
encourage
exactly.
that more. Let's really allow them to thrive and pursue that, which leads us to the next thing. So you have get natural giftings. There are goals that also play into the factor of, maybe what it is as they look forward to dreams, aspirations, things they want to accomplish in that area as they're navigating their way through. But again, we've talked a little bit about this already, but it's also important for them to tap into what they're passionate about. So sometimes you can be gifted at something, but not necessarily be real passionate about something.
Right.
You can be, you can have natural abilities and strengths in something, but you hate doing it. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily where you want to be either. So again, it's a matter of finding everything that seemingly is falling into place where not only are they naturally gifted at something, but at the same time, they have a real passion for it. They're naturally motivated. I mean, they wake up every day motivated. You don't have to get them motivated, or they don't have to go kicking and screaming. They are like, no, I can't wait to do this. And that could be in the academic arena too.
Yes.
It's not always just related to, arts or other expressions of that. Maybe they're motivated, in other arenas, whatever that is, whatever they're seemingly passionate about. And I heard someone kind of like put it in this way. What do you sing about? Think about what is it that you sing about? What makes you what kind of like what makes you happy? What is it that kind of like just lights you up? And another question is, what do I dream about? What's the blue sky? Man, if I could do anything, man, I would love to do this, or I would give anything to be able to do that. Well, what is that? Let's let them, articulate that. That's something. If I had the opportunity to do anything, fill in the blank, what would that be? What would that look like? Or another way to flip that on the other side is, what is it that causes you a sense of righteous anger?
Yeah.
In other words, when you see something, maybe an injustice, or maybe there's just something that within it, just kind of like, there's a cause, there is like, that's not right. I want to help meet that need. I want to help make sure these people are treated fairly. Okay, well, that's something to pay attention to, because now they are naturally motivated, because there's a passion there that seemingly just lights up, when they get on that conversation.
And that's why it's so important to expose them to different
Yes.
people and different serving opportunities.
Yes.
And exposure is very, very important.
And then what are you burdened about too? Like, what is it that breaks your heart when you see something, you hear something, you're like,
Right.
man, I can't sit on the sideline anymore. I have to be involved. I have to help. I have to do something. And I think, again, personality, using another P in there is big, because personality and our passions sometimes work hand in hand. Because, if you're an introvert, but yet you are pursuing things that require a more extrovert, type of opportunities or vocations or careers, all of those things have to be taken in consideration, because we all are our personalities is kind of how we express the things that we're really passionate about and we're gifted at. So our personalities play a big role. And so there are a lot of things that parents can do to have these conversations with their kids. They help them. It's just becoming more self-aware about what they're good at, what they're passionate about, what they're naturally motivated, to pursue, what they think about a lot, what they dream about a lot. give them those opportunities.
I think of a family in our church that has a middle school daughter that started coming to when they started coming to our church. She was in middle school, and the parents are super outgoing, very influential in the community. And so their daughter was very, very shy, and they started allowing her to serve in our children's area, and she just lit up. I mean, she has found her passion. I slipped back there a couple of weeks ago and just saw her as she was kind of packing everything up, and she is just bright and just beautiful in her gifting with children. And who would have ever known, but she feels confident in that where she may have not felt confident in other areas, but because her parents allowed her to experiment with some different things, she found her passion, and it fit with her personality.
Yeah, and I know who you're talking about, and I saw her just recently. And before, she would if I was walking anywhere in her direction, she was going the opposite direction.
She didn't want to talk.
But now she will look at me in the eye, walk towards me, will smile, and it's almost like she's been transformed. Like her confidence is just now exudes, which is so exciting. And I just want to share this. This is something that I've had so many conversations through the years with parents who they're brokenhearted over a son or a daughter who just seemingly can't find their way, and they have setback after setback, for various reasons, circumstances, situations that cause maybe them to have those setbacks. And what happens a lot of times is their child is feeling insecure. They're no longer motivated. They see themselves maybe as a failure. They're down on themselves. They're lacking confidence. So what happens is they're no longer winning. Everything they've done, everything they're trying to do, it seemed from their perspective, it's like I'm losing my way. I'm losing my my sense of identity and purpose in life. And the thing that I just want to encourage parents, if they have a son or daughter who's just in that difficult place where they're discouraged, what has to happen is we got to help them win. We got to help them find something that lights them up.
That's right.
And build on little successes. Do anything and everything possible to set them up for some kind of success. And we'll wrap this up by the last area. And it's what we call struggles. Because I just really believe that God never wastes a hurt. And sometimes our greatest setbacks, and this is not a cliche and it's not just some cool statement, but I really do believe this, that sometimes our setbacks in life that we perceive as a setback, if we're willing to allow God to intervene into our situations, can turn our setbacks into a setup for something that we never even thought would be possible. So failure's never final, and our future's not defined by our past. So we can actually take a struggle that we've encountered or maybe currently going through and maybe flip that to become a great strength in our life. Case in point, we were talking about our daughter Ashlyn a few moments ago. And all three of our kids went through struggles, difficult, painful struggles. But through the years, just like we've seen in other people, we've seen them turn those struggles and setbacks into areas of strengths. And our daughter Ashlyn, she's pursuing the medical path. She was very committed to the academic side and very disciplined and all of those things. And now she is embarking upon a new career path because of something she struggled with in high school through a physical challenge that she was going through. But through that physical and medical challenge and setbacks she encountered, that became an area of empathy in her life where now she became motivated to want to learn more about that and how that affects so many other people's lives. And so now that's almost like become a sense of calling and ministry to her in the medical space of how can I help other people, because I can identify what they're going through because I've been through it. I've walked through it. So again, God never wastes a hurt. So we just have to find, again, that's the internal God-given GPS, our gifts, that can also equate with goals in our lives that we want to see come to fruition. Our personality and the passions that we have. We all have a bent. We have to just experiment, figure out, the strengths, those weaknesses, the things that naturally come easy to us, that we find great joy and fulfillment in.
I do want to say on the struggle side of it that you do have to be intentional. Again, obviously we have to be a student of our children, but also with the struggle, we have to sit down with them, when they're going through struggle, and explain to them what you just said, that this is going to help you in your future. You're going to get through this. And, the tough times, they come, but they come to pass. Yeah. They don't come to stay, they come to pass. And so that we can help them have courage through their struggles and teach them through their struggles that they can become stronger through their struggle. And I think just sitting down maybe on the side of the bed with them, or praying with them and helping them to remember, like when they get in the car after school and you're picking them up, in the car line, and there's tears. That's when we as a parent have the unbelievable opportunity to redirect them to a perspective of their life about struggle. That they're going to make you stronger, and they don't always want to hear it. Right. But if we continue to plant those seeds in their life, then we will reap a harvest. They will reap a harvest, and God will use the struggle in their life for a greater story, and it's going to be powerful in their lives.
It's really good.
It's so valuable. Well, we've been talking about helping your kids navigate life's GPS, and I know podcast listeners, you've found this very encouraging today. So have those conversations with your kids, as Rodney and Michelle.
And just to unpack this in more depth, we have a whole section of this topic in our book called The Family Shift.
Yes.
And so I would really encourage any reader to get a copy of The Family Shift, and where we actually walk through, this whole aspect. There's a personality test and different things that we've kind of outlined in that too. And they'll also find this is stuff that we talk about in our mentoring program called the Double Win Club.
That's right.
And it's just a great way, again, for us to walk alongside couples and parents through our live monthly calls that we do, our blog that we send out, our little videos that we send out each week and in your inbox. And so there's just a lot of tools and resources through the mentoring opportunity so that parents don't have to go through all this alone. Right. They can reach out to us. We can answer questions they have. Right. There's all kinds of ways so that they can feel like they're equipped to win in these areas of their life.
Yes. Well, I know it's your heart to help parents not feel alone in this journey, because being a parent or even just being a spouse is scary sometimes. So how cool that you guys are willing to come alongside of folks and just mentor them, help them. You don't have to do it alone. So podcast family, just know that Rodney and Michelle are available in a number of different ways. You can go to the Winning Family. You can go to the Double Win Club. We've got a lot of different domains that we're trying.
Either one,
right?
The winningfamily.com or the Double Win.
Okay, the doublewin.club.com. You can learn about their mentoring program, and also you can find a copy of their books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, right? As well as the website, the doublewinclub.com. I saw that is up there as well. They can purchase there.
Yes.
And did I also see that you guys are giving away a copy of your newest book, The Double Win, if they will sign up for 30 days of mentoring with you? Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's just an opportunity for people to have something consistent and that's structured so that, in the process of learning and growing in these areas of their family life, hey, we'll give you a free book when you sign up, a 30-day free trial offer. No strings attached. If it doesn't work out or wasn't what you thought it was going to be, keep the book. It's on us. It's just a way that we can, again, sow into their lives. So
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, we'd love to hear your comments. And if you have questions for future episodes, if you've got questions for Rodney and Michelle, they are monitoring the podcast episode page. So right now, what you could do is go to the page wherever you found this podcast, whether it be iTunes or YouTube or whatever source you're finding the podcast on, and just make your comments there in the section. You can list your questions because they are monitoring that. They will come back and answer those in future episodes. So we'd love for you to do that and tune in. Also, hey, If this has been helpful to you, you're going to want to recommend it to your friends, your family, and even your kids. I want my kids listening to you guys, right?
thank you,
Because
Linda.
they are becoming great at winning with their own families.
awesome.
And what a blessing. So recommend it to those in your life, and you'll become a hero, right? Because you're helping them win at home and at life. So thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time.